The last message from Human Command. The ultimatum, the Galactic Assembly Chamber floated in the darkness between star systems, a massive construct built by civilizations that had mastered space travel when Earth's ancestors were still learning to make fire. Inside, representatives from 23 different species gathered in a circular arrangement that had existed for over 6,000 years. They called themselves the Assembly, and they believed their experience made them wise. Ambassador Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the center of the chamber, her pressure suit marked with Earth's insignia. She had been standing there for nearly 4 hours, listening to alien voices debate humanity's fate, as if her species were children who needed correction. The translation device in her ear converted their various forms of communication into words she could understand. But the condescension needed no translation. Chancellor Voran of the Krillian Dominion spoke first. His species resembled massive insects with shells that reflected light in rainbow patterns. The Epsilon sector falls within the ancient boundaries established 3,000 years ago. Your settlements there violate treaty protocols that existed before your species achieved spaceflight. Eleanor kept her voice steady. Those boundaries were established by species who are no longer part of the Assembly. The territories were marked as unclaimed in the current registry. We followed every settlement protocol. We paid all required fees. We registered our colonies with the Assembly Administration Office. Protocol is not the same as permission, said Matriarch Celine, whose telepathic voice touched everyone's mind simultaneously. Her species, the Mindweavers, were considered among the wisest in the galaxy. Humanity has been part of the Assembly for only 80 years. You are children in galactic terms. These territories may appear unclaimed to you, but older species understand the historical context. Elena felt frustration building, but controlled it. Humanity had worked for 8 decades to earn respect among the stars. They had shared technology, participated in trade agreements, and contributed to scientific research. They had done everything asked of them, yet still they were treated as newcomers who did not understand how things worked. With respect, Matriarch, our people have lived in those systems for 30 years, Elena said. We have built homes, schools, research stations. Over 40 million humans now call the Epsilon sector home. We cannot simply abandon them because the Assembly has decided, after 3 decades, that we should not be there. The chamber erupted in sounds that translation devices struggled to process. Some species made clicking noises that indicated disagreement. Others released pheromones that their technology converted into emotional context. A few simply broadcast their thoughts directly into the minds of those present. Supreme Commander Kelthane of the Vraxian Empire rose to his full height, nearly 3 meters tall. His species had evolved from predators, and it showed in every movement. Ambassador Vasquez, you speak as if you have a choice in this matter. The Assembly has made its decision. You will withdraw your colonies within 72 hours. This is not negotiation. This is notification. And if we refuse? Elena asked quietly. Kelthane's facial plates shifted in what might have been amusement. Then the Assembly will enforce its decision. We will establish a military blockade around the Epsilon sector. Your supply ships will be turned away. Your colonies will be isolated until you see reason. We do not wish to harm anyone, but we will not allow defiance from a species that has barely left its home system. Elena looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes or optical sensors or consciousness fields of each representative. She saw no sympathy, only the certainty that came from thousands of years of doing things a certain way. They genuinely believed they were being patient with humanity. I need to consult with my government, Elena said finally. 72 hours is not much time to evacuate 40 million people. You misunderstand, Chancellor Vorin said. 72 hours is not for evacuation. It is for you to announce your intention to evacuate. The actual withdrawal can take longer, provided you begin immediately and follow Assembly supervision. Elena bowed her head slightly, a gesture of respect that cost her nothing. Then I will return to Earth and deliver your message. I will have an answer for you within the deadline. She left the chamber and boarded her diplomatic shuttle. The pilot, Lieutenant Sarah Morrison, looked at her with concern. Ambassador, how did it go? They've given us an ultimatum, Elena said, strapping into her seat. Abandon the Epsilon sector or face military action. Get us to the relay station. I need to send a priority message to Earth. The shuttle accelerated away from the assembly station. Through the viewport, Eleanor could see the lights of hundreds of alien vessels, each representing a civilization far older than humanity. They looked peaceful, almost beautiful. But she knew that beauty meant nothing if those ships decided to enforce the assembly's will. The message she sent to Earth was brief, but clear. It reached the Strategic Defense Council within hours, transmitted through quantum communication relays that made distance irrelevant. Within minutes of receiving her report, every member of Earth's military and civilian leadership was gathered in the Situation Room deep beneath Geneva. Commander David Chen stood at the head of the briefing table, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. Around him sat generals, admirals, scientists, and politicians. Holographic displays showed the Epsilon sector, the assembly station, and tracking data for every known alien military vessel. "Let me be clear about our situation," David began. "The assembly is demanding we abandon 40 million citizens. They're threatening military blockade if we refuse. They believe we will comply because we are young, and they are old. They believe their experience makes them superior. Can we win a military confrontation?" asked General Maria Santos, head of the Space Defense Force. David activated a tactical display. The assembly can field approximately 3,000 warships if they mobilize fully. Current intelligence suggests they're preparing a blockade force of around 400 to 500 vessels. Our active fleet consists of 230 combat-capable ships. "We're outnumbered," someone said. "In ships, yes," David agreed. "In capability, no. The assembly hasn't fought a real war in over 4,000 years. Their military exists primarily for show and piracy suppression. Their tactics are based on protocol and tradition, not effectiveness. Their weapons are powerful but predictable. Their defenses are strong but inflexible." He changed the display to show human military development. "For the past 80 years, since we joined the assembly, we've been preparing for this possibility. We hoped it would never come. We tried everything to avoid it. But our strategic planners knew that older species might try to push us around. So we prepared." Dr. Lisa Park, head of weapons research, stood up. "The assembly knows about our conventional weapons. They've seen our missiles, our beam weapons, our defensive systems. What they haven't seen are the technologies we've developed specifically for this scenario. Adaptive AI warfare systems, quantum entanglement weapons, nanoscale combat drones, and tactical programs designed from studying every conflict in human history." "Are you suggesting we go to war with the entire Galactic Assembly?" asked the Secretary General. "I'm suggesting we demonstrate that bullying humanity is not cost-effective," David said. "The Assembly believes age equals wisdom. They believe their ancient traditions make them superior. They need to understand that warfare is not about tradition. It's about effectiveness. And humanity has spent 10,000 years perfecting the art of war through painful experience." The debate lasted for hours. Some argued for compliance, suggesting that 40 million people could be relocated rather than risk war. Others pointed out that giving in to threats would only invite more threats. Eventually, consensus formed around a single approach. Ambassador Vasquez returned to the assembly chamber exactly 72 hours after leaving. This time, Commander David Chen accompanied her, wearing his full military uniform. The alien representatives noticed the change immediately. Ambassador Vasquez, Chancellor Vorin, said, "Have you come to announce your compliance?" "No," Elena said simply. "We have come to deliver our response to your ultimatum. The people of Earth and the Epsilon sector colonies will not be abandoning their homes. We claim those territories legally. We will defend them if necessary." The chamber fell silent. Several alien representatives appeared confused, as if they could not process what they had just heard. "You cannot be serious," Matriarch Celine said, her telepathic voice carrying disbelief. "You are one species. The Assembly represents 23 civilizations. You have 200 ships. We have thousands. This is not courage. This is suicide." Commander Chen stepped forward. "You asked for our answer. Here it is." He activated a holographic projector that displayed a message in every language the Assembly used. The message was simple, just one sentence that appeared in the center of the chamber. "Since you chose war, let us show you how it's done." Supreme Commander Kelthane's facial plates shifted rapidly, indicating anger. "This is your response? A threat? Do you understand what you are challenging?" The Assembly has maintained peace in this galaxy for millennia. We have resources beyond your imagination. We have weapons that were ancient when your species was discovering agriculture. We understand perfectly, David said, his voice calm but firm. You have forgotten what war actually is. You have turned it into ceremony and tradition. You believe that advanced technology means advanced capability. You are wrong. War is not about having better weapons. It is about knowing how to use them effectively. You dare lecture us on warfare? Kelthane said, his voice rising. We have records of conflicts that occurred before your planet had life on it. Records, David repeated. Exactly. You have records of war. We have experience. For 10,000 years, humanity fought itself. Every generation learned from the mistakes of the previous one. We studied strategy, tactics, logistics, and psychology. We learned every possible way that intelligent beings can kill each other. We perfected warfare because survival demanded it, and we hoped we would never need to use that knowledge against other species. He paused, looking directly at Kelthane. You have made that hope impossible. You issued threats. You demanded we abandon our people. You believed we would submit because you are old and we are young. You chose this path. Then you choose extinction, Kelthane said coldly. The blockade fleet is already assembling. 450 warships from 12 different species. They will be in position within 48 hours. Your colonies will be cut off. Your supply lines will be severed. You will watch your people suffer until you see reason. No, Elena said firmly. You will watch your fleet learn why humanity does not make empty threats. We tried peace. We offered compromise. We requested only respect and equality. You responded with ultimatums and military force. Now you will understand the difference between having power and knowing how to use it. David and Elena left the chamber. Behind them, the assembly erupted into heated debate. Some species called for immediate military action. Others urged caution. A few, the wisest among them, felt something cold settling into their consciousness. They had seen the certainty in the humans' eyes. They had heard the lack of bluster in their words. These were not beings making empty threats. These were beings who had calculated outcomes and accepted consequences. By the time the assembly finished debating, the human diplomatic shuttle was already gone, racing back to Earth through faster-than-light corridors. And across human-controlled space, the military machine that had been waiting for 80 years began to move. The message had been delivered. The choice had been made. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest weapon was not technology or numbers. It was the hard-earned knowledge that came from thousands of years of fighting itself, learning from every mistake, and emerging from every conflict stronger and wiser. The war had begun, and the assembly had no idea what they had actually started. The demonstration. The assembly blockade fleet gathered at the edge of the Epsilon sector like a metal storm. 450 warships from 12 different species formed formations that had been perfected over millennia. Each vessel was enormous, built more for intimidation than efficiency. They bristled with weapons designed to overawe pirates and rebels. Their shields could withstand sustained bombardment. Their crews were well trained in standard procedures. Supreme Commander Kelthane stood on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Dominion, watching tactical displays that showed his forces in perfect order. Around him, officers from various species worked at their stations with calm efficiency. This was not war. This was enforcement, a demonstration of power that would remind humanity of its place in the galactic hierarchy. All ships report ready status, announced the tactical officer, a Krillian whose shell reflected the bridge lights. Formations are holding. Sensor networks are active. We control all approach vectors to the Epsilon sector. Kelthane nodded with satisfaction. Broadcast the standard blockade declaration. Inform all human vessels that they are forbidden from entering or leaving the sector. Any attempt to break the blockade will result in their ships being disabled and impounded. The message went out across all frequencies. It was formal, official, and followed protocols that had been established thousands of years ago. Everything was proper and correct. Everything was done according to tradition. Then the sensors started screaming, "Contact!" the tactical officer shouted, his calm demeanor vanishing. Multiple contacts. They are coming from everywhere. Above, below, from all cardinal directions. Velocity readings are impossible. Nothing should move that fast in normal space. Keltane moved to the sensor display. Red markers were appearing all around his fleet, surrounding them in a sphere. How many? 87 distinct signatures. Wait, those numbers are changing. Each signature is splitting into multiple smaller contacts. Current count is over 4,000 individual objects. Show me visual, Keltane commanded. The main screen shifted. What appeared made Kelthane's blood chill despite his species' natural temperature regulation. The human fleet was nothing like the elegant vessels of the assembly. Their ships were dark, angular, and utilitarian. They looked like weapons themselves, stripped of any aesthetic concern, and around each ship swarmed clouds of smaller objects, thousands of them, moving in patterns that seemed chaotic, but were clearly coordinated. What are those smaller objects? Keltane asked. Unknown. They are too small to be traditional fighters. Diameter approximately 2 meters. No obvious propulsion systems. No heat signatures. They are moving in formation with the human capital ships. A communication request appeared on the screen. Keltane accepted it. The face of Commander David Chen appeared, his expression neutral. Supreme Commander Keltane, David said, you have assembled a blockade fleet to intimidate humanity. We are here to demonstrate why that was a mistake. You have one opportunity to withdraw. We do not want to harm you, but we will defend our people. Keltane felt anger replace his initial shock. You have 87 ships against my 450. Your arrogance is remarkable. Withdraw now or we will disable your fleet and tow your ships back to your home system. We tried to warn you, David said quietly. Remember that in the hours ahead. The transmission ended. Keltane turned to his weapons officer. All ships prepare to fire. Target their engines and power systems. Disable them but do not destroy them. We want prisoners, not corpses. Sir, the smaller objects are accelerating toward our fleet, the tactical officer reported. Velocity increasing. They are moving faster than our targeting computers can track. Impossible. Nothing that small can generate that kind of acceleration. The G-forces would tear apart any material we know of. Nevertheless, they are doing it. The first wave of human drones hit the assembly fleet like an invisible storm. They were too small and too fast for traditional weapons to target effectively. They did not attack with explosives or energy weapons. Instead, they attached themselves to shield generators, sensor arrays, and weapon systems. Then they began to disrupt. Electromagnetic pulses fired at precise frequencies. Nanoscale cutting tools sliced through cable bundles. Sophisticated viruses infiltrated computer systems through any available port. Within minutes, ships throughout the assembly fleet were reporting systems failures. Shields are fluctuating, someone reported. Multiple ships reporting power losses. Weapons offline. Sensors being jammed. Keltane watched in growing horror as his perfect formation dissolved into chaos. Ships collided with each other as navigation systems failed. Communication channels filled with confused reports and requests for orders. And through it all, the human capital ships had not fired a single shot. Then they did. Human weapons were not designed for show. They were designed to solve problems efficiently. Missiles that could adjust their trajectories mid-flight, chasing targets through evasive maneuvers. Beam weapons that pulsed at frequencies calibrated to overload specific types of shields. Kinetic projectiles moving at velocities that made them nearly impossible to intercept. But most terrifying was the precision. Human weapons did not destroy ships. They disabled them. A missile would hit a ship's engine section, leaving the crew quarters untouched. A beam weapon would burn through a specific weapon mount without breaching the hull. Kinetic rounds would impact shield generators with surgical accuracy. They are not trying to kill us, the tactical officer said, his voice filled with confusion. Every hit is targeting systems, not crew. Keltane understood then. The humans were sending a message. They could destroy the assembly fleet if they wanted. They were choosing not to. This was not war. This was education. All ships, return fire, Keltane ordered. Concentrate on their capital ships. Ignore the drones the assembly fleet fired. Thousands of weapons discharged simultaneously, a display of firepower that should have been overwhelming. But the human ships moved with a coordination that seemed impossible without telepathic links. They shared targeting data instantaneously. They adjusted positions to support each other. They created overlapping fields of defensive fire that intercepted incoming weapons with brutal efficiency. And when assembly weapons did hit human ships, the results were disappointing. Human armor was multi-layered, designed to ablate and regenerate. Human shields operated on principles the assembly did not understand, shifting frequencies to match incoming attacks. Human damage control was automated and rapid, systems repairing themselves faster than they could be damaged. 3 hours into the engagement, Kelthane's fleet had been reduced to 30% combat effectiveness. Over 300 ships were dead in space, their crews alive but their vessels disabled. The remaining vessels were damaged, low on ammunition, and facing an enemy that had lost exactly 0 ships. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from the human fleet," the communications officer said. Kelthane accepted it. Commander Chen appeared again, his expression still neutral but his eyes showing something that might have been sympathy. "Supreme Commander, we are offering a ceasefire," David said. "Your fleet is defeated. Continuing to fight will only result in more damage and more casualties. We do not want that. We never wanted that. We will provide medical assistance to your wounded. We will help repair your ships enough for you to return home. All we ask is that you deliver a message to the assembly." Kelthane felt his pride warring with his duty to his crews. Pride demanded he continue fighting. Duty demanded he protect those under his command. "Duty 1, what message?" Kelthane asked, his voice heavy with defeat. "That war is not ceremony," David said. "It is not tradition. It is efficiency applied to conflict. Humanity spent 10,000 years learning that lesson through blood and suffering. We hoped the galaxy would never need to learn it from us. The assembly made that hope impossible. If they continue, we will demonstrate further, and they will not enjoy the lessons." The transmission ended. Kelthane gave the order to cease fire. Around him, officers sat in stunned silence. They had been taught that the assembly was invincible, that their ancient traditions and vast experience made them superior to all younger species. In 3 hours, humanity had shattered that belief completely. Human medical ships approached the disabled assembly vessels, broadcasting offers of assistance. Human repair drones swarmed around damaged ships, stabilizing reactors and patching hull breaches. Human personnel treated assembly wounded with professional efficiency, showing no triumph or cruelty. Reports began arriving from other systems. Assembly task forces sent to intimidate human colonies had met similar fates. Fleets of 200 ships reduced to scrap in hours. Planetary defense networks disabled without a single civilian casualty. Military installations neutralized, while nearby cities remained untouched. Across 3 star systems, the assembly had sent over 800 warships. Across those same systems, humanity had demonstrated absolute tactical superiority, using less than 200 vessels. The message was clear. The demonstration was complete. In the assembly chamber, representatives gathered in emergency session. The reports from the Epsilon sector were impossible to deny. Species that had maintained peace for millennia now faced the reality that they had forgotten what real conflict meant. "How can this be?" Chancellor Vorin asked, his voice lacking its usual confidence. "They are one species. We are many. They have been in space for centuries. We have been traveling the stars for tens of thousands of years." Matriarch Celine's telepathic voice touched everyone's minds, carrying a weight of understanding that chilled them all. "Because we forgot. We turned warfare into ceremony. We made rules to make conflict comfortable. We believed our age made us wise. The humans never forgot. They learned through constant struggle. They studied every mistake. They refined their methods across generations. While we maintained peace, they perfected war. Then what do? Someone asked. "We listen," Celine said. "We learn. And we pray that humanity is merciful. Because if they are not, we have given them every reason to destroy us. And we have proven we cannot stop them." The chamber fell silent. For the first time in recorded galactic history, the assembly had no answers. They could only wait to see what humanity would do next. The demonstration was over. The lesson had been taught. Now came the question of whether the galaxy would learn from it. The new understanding. The emergency session of the Galactic Assembly had been ongoing for 6 days. Representatives from all 23 species filled the chamber, but the usual calm deliberation had been replaced with heated arguments and frightened whispers. The holographic displays that normally showed economic data and cultural exchanges now displayed tactical analyses of humanity's military capabilities. The numbers were sobering. Chancellor Vorin stood at the central podium, his rainbow shell reflecting the chamber lights in patterns that indicated stress. We must make a decision. Supreme Commander Kelthane has delivered humanity's message. Ambassador Vasquez has requested permission to address this assembly. The question before us is simple. Do we escalate or do we negotiate? Escalate, declared War Marshal Thrix of the Goranth Collective, his massive frame bristling with biological armor plates. We have only committed a fraction of our military resources. We have defensive installations, planetary shields, weapons platforms that humanity has never encountered. We mobilize everything. We show them that defeating one fleet is not the same as defeating the assembly. And risk actual war? Matriarch Celine's telepathic voice carried concern. We saw what happened at Epsilon Sector. 800 ships disabled in hours. How many must we lose before we admit this is not a fight we can win? We cannot know unless we try, Thrix argued. Perhaps their victories were luck. Perhaps they exhausted their advanced weapons. Perhaps nothing, interrupted Science Director Mellon, a crystalline being whose body chimed as he moved. I have analyzed the engagement data. Human tactics displayed understanding of principles we have not even theorized. Their weapons technology operates on scientific foundations that challenge our current models. Their coordination suggests computational abilities or tactical doctrine far beyond ours. This was not luck. This was systematic superiority. The chamber erupted in disagreement. Some species advocated for total mobilization. Others called for immediate surrender. A few suggested appealing to older, more powerful civilizations that rarely participated in assembly affairs. Everyone had opinions, but no one had solutions. Enough, Chancellor Vorin said, his voice cutting through the chaos. Ambassador Vasquez has been waiting. We will hear what humanity has to say. Then we will decide. The chamber doors opened. Elena Vasquez entered, accompanied by Commander David Chen and a small delegation. They walked to the center of the chamber without hurry, without visible weapons, showing neither aggression nor submission. Elena stood in the same spot where, weeks ago, she had been lectured about humanity's place in the galaxy. Now every alien eye watched her with different emotions. Fear, curiosity, anger, respect. Members of the Assembly, Elena began, her voice clear and calm. We did not want this war. We asked only for respect. We requested recognition of our legitimate territorial claims. We sought partnership with equals. You responded with ultimatums and military force. You believed our youth made us weak. You were wrong. You proved your point, Chancellor Vorin said. Your military capabilities exceed our expectations. But strength alone does not make you right. The territories you claim have historical significance. Then share that history, Elena interrupted gently. Explain the significance. Help us understand. That is how partners communicate, not through threats, not through shows of force, through dialogue and mutual respect. Matriarch Celine projected her thoughts carefully. Ambassador, you speak of partnership, yet your forces have humiliated the Assembly. You have demonstrated our weakness before the entire galaxy. How can we partner with a species that has shown us to be obsolete? Commander Chen stepped forward. You are not obsolete. You have knowledge we need. Scientific discoveries spanning millennia, cultural wisdom we cannot match, diplomatic experience that could benefit everyone. What you lack is recent experience with conflict. That is not your fault. Peace is preferable to war, but you forgot that peace must be defended. He activated a holographic display showing Earth's history. Images of ancient battles, medieval conflicts, world wars, and finally humanity's unified government formed after a devastating global conflict. This is what humanity learned through suffering. Every image you see represents millions of deaths, billions of casualties across our history. We did not become good at warfare because we wanted to. We became good because survival demanded it. The display changed, showing human military academies, strategy centers, and research facilities. For the past 80 years since joining the Assembly, we studied your species. We learned your languages, your customs, your technologies, but we also analyzed your military capabilities. Not because we wanted to attack you, because we understood that younger species are often bullied by older ones. We hoped it would not happen. We prepared in case it did, War Marshal Thrix growled, a sound that translation devices rendered as aggressive challenge. You studied us. You planned to attack us. This was premeditated. No, David said firmly. We planned to defend ourselves. There is a difference. If the assembly had treated us as equals, you would never have seen our weapons. You would never have known our capabilities. You forced this revelation by threatening our people. Elena took over. We are offering peace. Real peace, not submission. We propose a new galactic accord with 3 key provisions. First, representation in the assembly based on contribution and capability, not age. Every species deserves equal voice regardless of when they achieved spaceflight. Second, all territorial disputes resolved through neutral arbitration, not military intimidation. Third, mandatory technology sharing to prevent any single species from maintaining dominance through secrecy. You want us to share our technologies? Science Director Mellon asked, his crystalline body flashing surprise. Technologies developed over thousands of years. We will share ours, Eleanor said, including the defensive and medical technologies we used during the Epsilon engagement, including our agricultural advances that could help species facing food shortages, including our computational methods that could benefit scientific research. Partnership means mutual benefit, and if we refuse these terms, Chancellor Vorin asked. David's expression remained neutral, but his voice carried weight. Then we continue to ensure you cannot threaten us. We neutralize every military asset you possess. We leave you defenseless but alive. We do not conquer. We do not occupy. We simply make it impossible for you to wage war. But that benefits no one. The galaxy has real threats: pirates, rogue AI, spatial anomalies. We should be working together to address those issues, not fighting each other over pride. Matriarch Celine's telepathic voice carried thoughtfulness. You mentioned something else in your initial message. A Galactic War College. What is that? Eleanor smiled slightly. A teaching institution. Humanity would share our tactical knowledge with any species that wishes to learn. Not to create conquerors, but to create defenders. To teach the principles of effective defense and conflict resolution, so that what happened at Epsilon never needs to happen again. You want to teach us war? Thrix asked incredulously. We want to teach you how to think about security, David corrected. How to analyze threats, how to develop contingencies, how to coordinate forces effectively. The galaxy has been peaceful for so long that you have forgotten how to defend that peace. We can help you remember, not through aggression, but through education. The chamber fell silent. Representatives exchanged glances, telepathic communications, and pheromone signals. The proposal was unprecedented. Never in recorded galactic history had a younger species offered to teach older ones. Never had defeat led to partnership rather than domination. Science Director Mellon chimed softly. I have a question. During the Epsilon engagement, your forces disabled our ships with remarkable precision. You could have killed everyone. You chose not to. Why? Because we understand that every casualty is someone's parent, child, or friend, Elena said quietly. Because we learned through painful experience that unnecessary death creates cycles of revenge. Because we are not monsters. We are people who have seen too much war and want to prevent it, not perpetuate it. Chancellor Vorin looked around the chamber. We need to vote on these proposals. But first I want to ask Ambassador Vasquez something directly. If we accept these terms, if we agree to this new accord, can humanity promise there will be no revenge? No punishment for our initial threats? Elena shook her head. We cannot promise there will be no consequences. Actions have results, but we can promise that consequences will be fair. That punishment will be proportional. That we seek justice, not vengeance. The Supreme Commander who ordered attacks on civilian vessels will face trial. But the Assembly as a whole will face only the requirement to change how you treat younger species. Is that not fair? It is more than fair, Matriarch Celine said, her telepathic voice carrying conviction. It is merciful. I vote to accept humanity's terms. One by one, species began to indicate acceptance, some enthusiastically seeing opportunity, some reluctantly recognizing necessity, some with reservation, fearing what change would bring. But within hours, consensus formed. 20 of the 23 species voted to accept the new accord. The 3 dissenting species asked for time to consult with their home governments, which was granted. The Galactic War College was established within months. Located on a neutral world, it welcomed students from across the galaxy. Human instructors taught classes on tactical thinking, strategic planning, and conflict resolution. But they also learned from alien students who brought perspectives from thousands of different worlds and cultures. The exchange of knowledge benefited everyone. The territorial disputes that had triggered the war were resolved through neutral arbitration, which ruled largely in humanity's favor while granting some concessions to assembly claims. New trade agreements were established. Scientific cooperation expanded. Cultural exchanges increased. But the most important change was psychological. The assembly species began to understand that age did not equal wisdom, that ancient did not mean superior, that every species, regardless of when they achieved spaceflight, had knowledge and capabilities worth respecting. 2 years after the Epsilon engagement, a graduation ceremony at the Galactic War College brought together military officers from 15 different species. They had studied together, learned together, and formed bonds that crossed species barriers. Among them was a young Krillian officer who had lost family when her ship was disabled at Epsilon. She stood beside a human instructor who had commanded one of the attack squadrons. "I hated you once," she told him during the ceremony. "I blamed humanity for my losses. But these past months taught me something. You did not start that war. You ended it. You could have killed everyone, but you saved as many as you could. That is not the action of monsters. That is the action of warriors who understand the value of life." The human instructor nodded. "We learned that lesson through terrible cost. If our experience can help others avoid our mistakes, then something good came from all that suffering." In the assembly chamber, a new session began. For the first time, human representatives sat alongside alien ones as equals. Elena Vasquez, now officially recognized as ambassador with full voting rights, participated in discussions about galactic policy. Her voice carried the same weight as species that had been traveling the stars for millennia. Chancellor Vorin opened the session with words that would have been unthinkable years earlier. "This assembly recognizes contributions from all member species regardless of age. We gather not as ancients and newcomers, but as partners working toward common goals. We have learned that wisdom comes not from years alone, but from experience, adaptation, and the willingness to change. Humanity taught us that lesson. May we prove worthy students. The galaxy had changed, not through conquest or domination, but through demonstration and mutual respect. Humanity had shown that youth and experience could defeat age and complacency. But more importantly, they had shown that victory did not require cruelty. That strength could be tempered with mercy, and that the best outcome of conflict was partnership rather than subjugation. The last message from Human Command had been clear. "Since you chose war, let us show you how it's done." They had shown the galaxy exactly that, not by destroying their opponents, but by defeating them so thoroughly and efficiently that continued fighting became pointless. And then they had offered something more valuable than victory. They had offered friendship. The war was over. The lessons had been learned. And the galaxy moved forward, stronger and wiser for the experience. Humanity had earned its place among the stars, not through age or ancient heritage, but through competence, determination, and the hard-won knowledge that came from thousands of years of learning how to turn enemies into allies. The future was uncertain, as futures always are. But for the first time, humans and aliens faced it together, as equals, as partners, as friends forged through conflict and tempered by mutual respect. And that made all the difference. If you're ready to witness humanity's unstoppable vengeance, hit that like button. Drop a comment below and tell us, how do you think humanity will strike back? Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter in this epic battle. The war has just begun, and you'll want to see how humanity takes its revenge. Join the fight now. Comment for next part.